Hello, readers. Welcome to Sock and Talk. Thank you so much for coming to spend some time with me today. And I am so sorry it's been so long. I have just not been in the right frame of mind to talk about what I'm supposed to be talking about today. So instead, we are going to be talking about something else. If you watched my last video, which was far too long ago, you know that I am supposed to be discussing Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood today. But as I tried to read it, I came to a discovery. And that is that it is not the right book to be reading at this moment in time. At least not for me. There is some themes in there that are just a little too on point with what's been going on in the world. So I had to put it aside. And I haven't given up on it. I am still working on it, but I don't see my review of it coming for a little while, at least until things calm down, become a little more pleasant, a little less isolating, just a little more not quite so depressing. With that in mind, I decided to read something else and do something a little new for you guys today. After I set it aside, I discovered that an author I really enjoy had put out a new book in a series I also really enjoy. So I picked that up instead. And while I was reading it, I came to the decision that I wanted to share the series with you. Without further ado, we are going to be discussing PsyCop by Jordan Castillo Price. PsyCop is an LGBT series. Jordan Castillo Price is a writer of paranormal sci-fi thrillers. She lives in Michigan, and she is the owner of JCP Books, which is a small publishing company, I believe. She has a number of series that I have read, but PsyCop is my favorite. It is an ongoing series, currently at 11 books, plus one short story collection. And I can just not get comfortable. Joys of sitting outside. Okay, so the series centers around Victor Bayne, a gay, extremely powerful medium cop who can both see and talk to ghosts. It surrounds the case he is trying to solve, as well as coming to terms with his own less than stellar past as a medium. Other notable characters are his boyfriend Jacob Marks, who's also a detective, and he is what is called a stiff, or the non-psychic half of a psychic cop partnership. So the series is about solving cases, protecting himself and those he's closest to, and coming to terms with his quote-unquote gifts. So what do I like about the series? I love the characters. You will hear that in most series that I actually read, or most books that I read, that my liking the characters or the character development is extremely important. I have a lot of trouble reading books if I don't enjoy the characters. I don't understand why I would want to learn more about them if I don't like them. Victor is overcoming his demons, coming to terms with his ability and his growth as a person, a psychic, and a cop. Jacob, he grows and develops a lot in the series in a different way. He becomes more secure in himself and in his relationship. He really gets past the whole psychic groupie and becomes a good, supportive partner to Victor. You see a broad range of psychic abilities in this series. And some of them are the very common ones, like mediumship, telepathy, telekinesis, empathy, or as an empath. But you also see more unusual ones, like there is a character who has what they call the see-no. And you can ask her any yes or no question, and she will get it right every single time. She will have a yes or no answer for it. And it can be something as simple as, is it going to rain tomorrow? Or is this killer found west of this street right now? Like, it's very specific, and it's really interesting to watch them explore and see where a talent as simple as yes or no could go. You also have a character that can root out any lie. You cannot lie to them, which is slightly terrifying, and you see a lot of people scared of that character in the book as well. But you also see not just the pros of a gift, such as any of these, but you also see the cons. So for Victor, he may see all these dead characters, but they're not as you would see them while they were still alive. He sees them at their moment of death, what happened to them, which is horrifying. The yes or no, it causes characters to question like their entire faith. The character that can't or knows lies cannot lie themselves. So you see the pros and the cons of each ability, which is really interesting to explore and not always something people think about when they do the whole, if you had any power, if you had any skill, what would it be? They always see the pros, they don't see the cons very often, unless it's mind reading, and then no one wants mind reading because do you really want to know what people think of you? Another thing I like about this series is that it feels authentic for what I think would happen if psychics and psychic powers became mainstream in our actual living world. You see the people that are accepting it and love it. You see the people that just hate it. You see the people that think it's an offense against God. You see how would something like this be used in a court of law? Would it actually work? If a psychic came to you and said, well, the victim told me this happened to them, how would that actually be seen in a court of law? Would you trust it? So it deals with all of these range of possibilities and exploration. It is not front and center in the book. I wish it would actually be explored a bit more, but it is there, which I find really fascinating. And what else? I really like that these aren't young characters. It's not some 18, 20-year-old fresh off the force coming in and learning to deal with all this stuff. These characters are in their late 30s, early 40s, and that's my age range, which is probably what I like about it so much. But it is, someone a little bit more experienced, a little more into their life, just now starting to deal with this. And I like that because that's so true. Most of us don't deal with these things when we're younger. Traumas we have, horrible experiences, coming to terms with things. We put it off until we're a little older, we're a little more stable, and we feel more ready for it, or that we can't put it off any longer. So I really like that. I like to see that continual growth and development for someone a little bit older, because you don't see that a lot in books, at least not the books that I read. Yeah, that's the main things I really like about the series. The things I am not quite as fond about the series for, and I need to explain that, I shouldn't need to explain, I need to clarify that these are not specific to a particular book. They are not necessarily found in every single book, so you might think like, oh, this might be so annoying, I would never read this book because this would be so annoying to come across this all the time. Not necessarily. It's just things that I remember, things I've noticed, things that stuck with me. But that doesn't mean that it happened all the time. It could have happened once and I just found it annoying at that particular moment. And I remember being annoyed by it at that particular moment. And they're very minor. Like, I really enjoy this series. So, things I dislike. One, the pacing can be inconsistent. Some parts can just feel like they're dragging on too long, while other parts feel really rushed. And you want them to slow down a little bit more, or put a little more description into it. So, over-describing, under-describing. It's a fine balance that most authors can't nail most of the time, or at least not all the time. So, it's not a deal breaker by any means, but I do notice it occasionally. The descriptions, especially during action scenes, can be muddied, making them confusing to read. I actually find this fairly common, and it's not from like the entire action scene. It's always specific pieces within an action scene that I think she's trying to be a little too specific or put a little too much in to get maybe the character's motions right, the different dips and dives and all of that. I either just kind of go like, okay, there was a scuffle and move on, or have to go back and reread it and try to understand what is happening. That's just me. But I do find that it's frequent enough that it is worth noting. If you have a good imagination, some descriptions can be disturbing. So as I said, Victor sees these ghosts at the moment of death. He is a homicide detective. There's gonna be some gore. So if you have a good imagination, that could be a bit of a problem for you. He also doesn't just see the homicide victims. He sees everyone that died. So car accidents, suicides, things that happened 50 years ago, those ghosts may be wandering around, and he is going to see them on the worst moment of their existence. So it happens a lot. It happens a lot in the books. If that's going to bother you, the author does not go too graphic for the most part, but some of it, again, you have a good imagination, you're gonna get it. And it could be a little like, eeh. So be warned. Victor can be both naive and oblivious at times to a point that I find it a little annoying. An example would be basically everyone he works with has to sign confidentiality agreements because he's a very powerful psychic. And you don't want people to know where a really powerful psychic lives, especially when you have a lot of religious extremists or people that would love to talk to their deceased loved one, knowing who you are, knowing where you are. His identity is kept very vague for a good reason. And this, when he discovers it, it just blows his mind. It baffles him and he's upset. It's like, well, what did you think would happen? You know? And so things like that, just things like that, that just irked me a little bit. It's like, well, what did you expect? If that's the sort of thing that's going to drive you nuts, it's in there, be warned. But, yeah, I really enjoy the series. Even with these little things, I really enjoy it. And now it's going to be the obligatory reminder. I said it at the beginning, I'm saying it again. This is an LGBT series. It is focused on gay characters. If you have an issue with gay characters, gay sex, there is a lot. Please step away from my channel. I read all kinds of books. A lot of them are LGBT focused. So they're going to be on here. If that's an issue for you, thank you for watching this far. If not, and you just have an issue with reading about gay sex, it's pretty easy to find and skip over that part. Okay? It doesn't take that long. It's flipping a few pages. They're adult males, they're mature males, they are going to have sex. You don't want to read it in straight books, you skip over that part. You don't want to read it in LGBTQ books, you're going to skip over that part. So, a few facts about the series. It is 11 books long with one short story collection as an extra. The short stories are actually mixed in between the books. You can do without them, but if you want to see more about the actual characters off duty, it's a good little add-on. It actually tells you where it would fall within the series. so you can actually skip back and forth if you want to read them that way. As I said, it's 11 books. One of the books is not focused on Victor, it is focused on their friend Crash. And really, by the time you get to that far in the series, you really want Crash to have his happy ending, so you're happy to have the book about him. But if you only want to learn about Victor and Jacob, you can definitely skip that book in the series. It's not taking away from what actually happens otherwise. The series originated in 2006 with Among the Living. The last book, Bitter Pill, was just released this year, and it is an ongoing series. It can be found in ebook, audiobook, or paperback. It is not in, your Chapters or mainstream bookstores. It can be found on jcpbooks.com or Amazon if you want it in paperback. Otherwise, ebook, audiobook, you can get it on Kindle, Kobo, iTunes, all the standard places. But yes, that is my little summary of the series. I don't know what to say. I forgot to actually bring my next book out here with me. But the next book I am reading is called Library of the Dead by Glenn Cooper. It is a book I haven't read before, so it is my new read, and I'm hoping to have that up soon. I will be working a little bit harder on being more consistent with uploading. And yeah, thank you so much for sticking around if you did. And thank you, Dev, for choosing my socks today. Yeah. Everyone, I hope you're having a good day. I hope you're doing okay in quarantine. Things are starting to open up again. I'm hoping you're still being safe, taking your precautions, and I will talk to you all soon. Bye.